Have you ever heard of the Maasai? You've probably seen pictures of them, tall, elegant figures in vibrant red cloths, adorned with intricate beadwork, often holding a spear. They are one of the most iconic ethnic groups in Africa, known for their unique culture and deep connection to their ancestral lands in Kenya and Tanzania. But beyond these striking images lies a rich and complex history, a story of migration, adaptation, and resilience that spans centuries. Today, we're going to journey back in time to uncover the fascinating history of the Maasai people. So grab a seat and let's explore how this semi-nomadic community came to be one of the most renowned cultures on the continent. Our story begins not in East Africa, but much further north in the Nile Valley of what is now South Sudan. The ancestors of the Maasai were part of a larger group of Nilotic peoples. Linguists and historians believe that around the 5th–10th century, they began a great southward migration. Why did they move? Well, like many great migrations in history, the exact reasons are a mix of factors, perhaps climate change, a search for fresh grazing lands for their cattle, or pressure from other expanding groups. What we do know is that they traveled south, along the Great Rift Valley, a journey that would shape their identity forever. As they moved, this large group began to split. One branch became the Kalenjin people, while another continued south to become the ancestors of the Maasai and their close relatives, the Samburu. The Maasai themselves emerged as a distinct group sometime between the 17th and 18th centuries. Their language, Ma, is a testament to this shared origin, as it belongs to the Eastern Nilotic language family. This migration wasn't just a simple walk in the park. It was an epic trek through diverse and often challenging landscapes. They were pastoralists, meaning their entire way of life revolved around their cattle. Cattle weren't just a source of food. They were a symbol of wealth, status, and a sacred gift from their god, Enkai. This deep connection to their herds drove them to constantly seek out the best pastures and water sources, which is what led them to their present-day homeland. By the early 19th century, the Maasai had reached the peak of their power and influence. They occupied a vast territory stretching from what is now northern Kenya all the way down to central Tanzania. Their lands covered some of the most fertile and resource-rich areas in East Africa, including the Serengeti Plains and the Masai Mara ecosystem. They weren't just pastoralists. They were formidable warriors. The Masai Maran, or warriors, were renowned for their bravery, strength, and distinctive appearance. Armed with spears, shields, and a deep knowledge of the land, they controlled trade routes and commanded respect and often fear from neighboring communities. During this period, known as the Maasai Emutai, their expansion was so significant that they assimilated many smaller ethnic groups, absorbing them into Maasai culture and society. Their society was, and still is, structured around a series of age sets. This is a crucial part of Maasai life. Groups of boys born around the same time go through life stages together. They are initiated into warriorhood together. They get married around the same time, and they eventually become elders together. This system creates incredibly strong bonds of loyalty and solidarity, acting as the social glue that holds their community together. The elders held the political power and wisdom, while the Moran were responsible for protecting the community and their cattle from predators and rivals. It was a well-organized and effective social structure that allowed them to thrive for generations. However, the late 19th century brought a series of devastating challenges that would test the Maasai to their limits. This period is often referred to as the Eloi Kok Wars, a series of internal conflicts between different Maasai sections. These wars, combined with a catastrophic outbreak of diseases, brought the Maasai to their knees. Rinderpest, a deadly cattle virus, swept through East Africa, wiping out up to 90% of their herds. Without their cattle, their primary source of wealth and sustenance, the Maasai faced widespread famine. This was immediately followed by a smallpox epidemic that decimated their population. The once mighty Maasai were weakened and vulnerable, and it was at this exact moment that a new power arrived on the scene: the European colonialists. The arrival of the British in Kenya and the Germans in Tanganyika, modern-day Tanzania, marked a new and difficult chapter. The weakened Maasai were in no position to resist the technologically superior colonial powers. In 1904 and 1911, the Maasai were coerced into signing treaties with the British. These agreements, known as the Maasai Agreements, were deeply controversial. The Maasai leaders, many of whom were likely illiterate and didn't fully understand the European concept of land ownership, signed away vast portions of their most fertile lands. They were moved into smaller, less productive reserves in the south. This land loss was a massive blow. The very heart of their territory, the rich grazing lands they had fought for and defended for centuries, was taken to make way for European settler farms and ranches. Colonial rule brought more than just land loss. The British administrators actively sought to dismantle the Maasai way of life. They viewed the pastoral, semi-nomadic lifestyle as primitive and inefficient. They tried to suppress the Moran warrior system, seeing it as a threat to colonial authority. They imposed taxes, forced Maasai men into labor, and tried to get them to adopt settled agriculture, a lifestyle completely alien to their culture. Despite this immense pressure, the Maasai resisted in their own ways. They held on to their traditions, their language, and their deep spiritual beliefs. Their cultural identity proved to be incredibly resilient, a flame that refused to be extinguished even in the face of overwhelming change. When Kenya and Tanzania gained independence in the 1960s, you might think things would get better, but in many ways the challenges continued. The new post-colonial governments continued many of the same policies as the British. They promoted modern Western models of development, which often clashed with the Maasai's traditional pastoralism. More land was taken for national parks and wildlife reserves like the famous Serengeti and Maasai Mara. While these parks are crucial for conservation, they further restricted the Maasai's access to their traditional grazing grounds and water sources, creating a conflict between conservation and indigenous rights that continues to this day. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the Maasai are still navigating a world that is rapidly changing around them. They face immense pressures from climate change, which brings more frequent and severe droughts, threatening their herds. Population growth and the expansion of agriculture continue to shrink their lands. Globalization and modern education are also bringing new ideas and opportunities, but they also challenge traditional values. Young Maasai are increasingly moving to cities in search of jobs and education, creating a generational gap. Yet, despite all these challenges, the Maasai have shown incredible adaptability. They are not a people frozen in time. Many are finding innovative ways to blend tradition with modernity. They are engaging in politics, advocating for their land rights, and using education to empower their communities. Many have embraced tourism, using their rich cultural heritage to create sustainable livelihoods. UALAO say Maasai-owned and operated cultural villages and safari guides who share their deep knowledge of the local ecosystem with visitors from around the world. They are also leveraging technology, using mobile phones to check market prices for their cattle or to access veterinary services. The story of the Maasai is not just a story of the past. It is an ongoing narrative of a proud and resilient people striving to maintain their identity while adapting to the demands of the modern world. Their history teaches us about the complexities of migration, the rise and fall of power, the devastating impact of colonialism, and the incredible strength of cultural identity. The next time you see that iconic image of a Maasai warrior gazing across the savannah, I hope you'll remember the deep, powerful, and ongoing story behind the picture. It's a story of survival, of adaptation, and of an unbreakable spirit. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into Maasai history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories from around the world. Let us know in the comments what other cultures you'd like to learn about. See you in the next video.